Today we're talking about mindset stuff. Oh, hi Instagram. Welcome back to day 3 of Client Attractor. So today's conversation is super important, of course, because if you've been following along day 1 and day 2, then you know that the energy behind your actions are super key, right? So you would know that in order to have the most impact, in order for our actions to have the most impact, it's important to make sure that the energy behind the action is in alignment with the desired outcome, right? In alignment with the action that we are taking. And I mean, mostly just in alignment with the desired outcome. Coming from a place of like shy, not even shy, because I believe you can still be shy and like still show up with confidence. But I think the main key here is actually, this is very powerful. The main key here is really just owning and accepting who you are and allowing that to be the thing that you lead with, instead of trying to be somebody that you're not, right? So I find that when myself and my clients, we are feeling pressure to be a certain way, or we're trying to show up a certain way online, we're trying to show up as our alter ego or our future selves or this or that or whatever, sometimes it can create resistance between where we are and where we desire to be. And therefore, we don't feel good enough because we are not here yet. We are over here. And then therefore, that impacts the way in which we show up because we do not feel enough to show up in this way, or even just as we are, right? We don't feel like we can show up as our next level selves because we're not there yet physically, tangibly. And so that resistance obviously creates an internal conflict, and then it creates an external conflict as well, because what you're desiring, what you're taking action on, is not going to be in alignment, and therefore, the messaging can get lost in translation. I like to say that your energy can speak for itself. I was having a conversation with a family member the other day. It was a very challenging conversation, and they were trying to convince me like, oh, well, this is something that I say. Like, this is what I say, and there's no problem with me saying this. And I was like, okay, but listen, like, feel into your energy, because you're saying this, but I'm hearing this. You know what I mean? Like, you're saying you're fine. You're saying you agree with something, but actually what I'm hearing is that you don't like the thing that you're talking about, that you don't agree with it. Right? And so this is what I mean, is that like our words and the way in which we come off, as much as people like to think that they're stealthy, as much as people like to think that they are able to cover things up, or they're able to not show their true colors, people can sense when something is off. And the more, I guess, awakened that you are, the more in touch with your truth that you are, the harder it's going to be to show up inauthentically. And that's why I'm always coming back to, like, how are you showing up? What is your truth? And are you sharing that truth with the world, right? This is so key. Today, we're going to be talking about this confidence. Like, how do you foster confidence when you really don't feel confident at all, when you're just starting out? Or even, like, I remember I've been in business for 5 years, but like around this time last year, I did not feel confident. I was in the middle of a pivot. I had just gone through my Saturn return, and I didn't know what the fuck I was here to do. I didn't know who I was helping. I just felt so lost. And I actually ended up hiring somebody to help me get back on track, because I realized I couldn't do it myself. So super grateful for that, because I feel like I got it. I'm on a roll again, and it feels really good to be here. But I just want you to know that if you don't feel like you're on track, if you feel kind of lost, it's okay. And I just want to encourage you to reach out and get support, because it makes a huge difference when you can have somebody to kind of help you sift through what you're working through and help you to see maybe your perspective, or offer a different perspective. Coaching is so helpful for helping us see things that we don't see ourselves, especially when it comes down to speaking about what we offer and what we do, and telling people about all the things that we do, because often we're just so stuck in our heads and we have no clue, like, how do I convey this thing to somebody? How do I convey this feeling to somebody? It's just a feeling, right? And coaching can definitely help with that. So if you need help, let me know, and I will let you know how we can work together. So mindset and confidence, lack of confidence, I find really holds people from sharing more online, right? And it holds a lot of entrepreneurs back from showing up. And something that I want to share with you is like, it's not always going to be a conscious mindset like, oh, I'm not confident in myself. Sometimes what it is that we like want to show up and we know we have something good to offer, but what actually ends up happening is we avoid the thing that we have to do by creating busyness in other areas of our lives. And we don't actually realize like, oh my God, I'm actually not confident, or oh my God, I actually have mindset issues about showing up, or oh my God, what if people judge me? What if people cancel me? What if whatever? And then we end up creating all of these other reasons for why we can't show up. And this is why I teach the mindset model that I teach, because mindset is not always the story that goes on in your head. It's a very big part, but also it can be like procrastinating. It can be putting other things in front, like as a priority in front of what you actually really want to be doing. And if you want to show up more powerfully online, if you want to show up as an industry leader, you've got to foster some confidence. Now, how do we foster confidence when you're not actually confident at all? Well, first of all, I think a really big thing, and I think I talked about this yesterday, but it's really focusing on what you are good at and not what somebody else or what the industry is good at, or like what everyone else in your industry does, or looking to other people for what it is that they do. And I find also coaching helps with this too, because instead of looking at what everyone else is doing, we come back to like, okay, what's true for me? Like, what do I provide? What do I offer? And talking through this process, it's almost like going to therapy and helping people to verbalize things, right? You're able to actually put words around what it is that you do, what you desire to do, and how you help people. So if I were starting my business from scratch, now I just posted a post today where I shared about how I purchased this Facebook marketing program, and I purchased it because the seller of this program made it sound as if I could build a business online without actually having conversations with people. And young little me was like, hell yeah, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to send copy paste templates. I'm sick of not, being myself. I don't like the feeling of anxiety I get when I try to talk about my products or try to talk about what I do, because at the time I was still in network marketing and I was, sending copy paste templates like they teach you to. And oh, it's so easy. Just send this message that's completely inauthentic and not customized to who you are. And so knowing that I didn't like that feeling, knowing that I didn't want to do that, I was like, sign me up for funnels. I'm going to create a funnel so that it's just like emailing people and I don't have to even talk to them. I don't have to think about what words to say and all of that jazz. Well, fast forward a couple of months, fast forward a year, I tried very hard to make that business model work. And what I realized is that if you're going to be working with people and helping people, you actually have to talk to people. So sales is not something to be afraid of. Showing up in your industry as a leader is not something to be afraid of. It's really just about, again, coming back to self. What are you confident in? What can you help people with, right? And so, like I said, if I were to go back and start my business from scratch, I would, and I did end up doing this, but like way late in the game. And I'm like, damn, if I had done this like 2 years ago, I would have been way more ahead. I would start having conversations with people earlier. And I would start trying to, first of all, I would start gaining confidence in my coaching skills. I would maybe offer lower priced packages for people. I find the coaching industry is so like, raise your rates, you're worth it, like make more money, blah, blah, blah. And this is great. But if you cannot justify or feel, it's not even about justification. It's like if you can't feel into your worthiness for what it is that you desire to charge or whatever number you and your coach came up with, you're going to have a hard time actually selling anybody on that because, first of all, you're not going to be able to show up with confidence, right? And if you're not confident in what you have to offer, people can feel that. People can feel energy. People can feel your anxiety, your lack of confidence, all of that stuff. I wanted to share this example with you guys. So A couple of weeks ago, I was running a masterclass, and I asked one of my current clients who was on the masterclass. It was a free masterclass. And I was just asking for feedback because I love feedback. I love knowing how my content comes across to people. Feedback, I used to take very personally, and I used to be very guarded and sheltered, and my poor little ego self could not handle feedback, could not handle constructive criticism. And now I kind of see it as more like, okay, this isn't personal. This is literally just how can I improve? How can I get better? And so I've started asking my clients now for the last couple of years for feedback because, first of all, this is key to providing a good service, right? And it's key to improving as a coach or improving as a healer or improving as a mentor, whatever it is that you're doing. Feedback is key and necessary to your growth, right? So instead of taking it personally and being like, oh, well, trying to explain it away, well, I didn't know, or whatever. It's okay. You're not a child, you're not wounded, you're not in trouble. How can you open up and see feedback for what it is, and just allow that to help you expand and grow as a person and not trying to be the perfect version of yourself that you think you have to be. I know a lot of high achievers and perfectionists struggle with that. So just want to lay that there. But anyway, we were talking about feedback and she was like, were you nervous? And I was like, yeah, honestly, a little bit at the beginning. And I was like, did you feel that? And she was like, yeah, I definitely felt anxiety. And I was like, well, did you still feel it after we did the meditation? Because I typically open up my spaces with meditation. And she was like, no, actually, it went away after that. And I was like, okay, that's good, because I personally felt my nerves and anxiety at the beginning of that masterclass as well. And as soon as I came into the meditation and guiding the meditation, it was everything dropped and I was able to just sink into what it was that I was there to do, sink into my leadership, my confidence, all of that stuff. And so I share this with you not to say you should start all of your trainings with meditation. This is literally just an example of how you can give yourself permission to do whatever the fuck you need to do as a leader and not feel concerned about people's judgment or what people are going to think of you, or well, what if I don't have the skills to lead people through meditation? All of this bullshit. If you're not understanding already what the theme of this 5-day live series is, the major theme here is sink into who you are. Don't try to be somebody that you're not, right? The more we try to be somebody that we're not, the more we're going to feel that resistance and the harder it's going to be to show up. So yeah, all of these mindset blocks, right? These are usually underlying our avoidance and our procrastination and our filling our calendars with all of this busy work, because we don't actually want to do the thing that we maybe need to do in order to put ourselves out there, because putting ourselves out there is outside of our comfort zone and it's scary, and our brain wants to keep us safe and doesn't want people to alienate us. And we create all of these reasons, right? And ultimately, what I've learned is that obviously these reasons that we create tend to just be fear showing up. They're not actually real. In all of my time working with my clients, I have not had a client come to me and be like, oh my God, I posted this and so canceled me and now my business is ruined and I'm a failure. That has never happened. The more we can focus on not allowing other people and other people's perspectives to influence how we feel, the better we're going to be, right? The more confident we're going to be, the more stable we will be, the more you will be able to show up without allowing those things to influence your energy, to influence your confidence, to influence your emotions. Because often what I see happen is that people will receive a negative comment and then they're like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Then they hyperfixate on it, right? And then when we hyperfixate on it, we create other scenarios or other emotions, other thoughts, opinions, and make up stories about who we are. And then we kind of stay stuck in that vibration. So a big part of the work that we do in my business, if you're in my world, is really working on people, not allowing other people to influence how you feel and how you get to show up as a leader, right? Now, I know another thing that holds people back is fear of failure. what if I fail? What if I post all of this stuff and I show that I'm, on my way to making money and getting my business out there and all of this stuff, and I fail? Well, I mean, first of all, something that comes up for me is like, well, why are we like putting an end to the story before we even begin, right? Because we don't actually know until we try if we're going to fail. But also, what does failure even mean? Does failure mean that you gave up? Does failure mean that it didn't work out, so you have to get a job? Does failure mean that, like, what exactly does failure mean? Because for me, I definitely had fear of failure come up for me, right? Like, well, what if I do all of this and then it just doesn't work out? For me, when I decided that I was not going to fail, that I was going to just keep trying and pivoting until something worked, until I actually figured out what I was, doing, or like figured out a process that would work for me, then failure does not exist. It's really just like trying and experimenting and seeing what's working and what's not working, right? For me, there's no such thing as failure because, whether you decide to start a business today and then in 5 years from now, you're like, actually, I don't want to run this business anymore. I'm going to do something else. Like, no matter what it is that you're doing, no matter what it is that you're focusing on, you're still growing, you're still expanding, you're still improving. And it's highly likely that that business experience is going to come into play in something else, right? So we don't always know the end result. We don't always know where we are choosing to go, but sometimes, not even sometimes, I'm going to say all the time, the best form of guidance is just leaning into what we know in our hearts that we are here to do, right? Like leaning into that intuition and that feeling of like, oh my God, I want to feel fulfilled, or like, I want to help people in this way, or I want to, expand in this way, or influence in this way, or show up in this way. I want to help people over here. And by following that guidance, that is always going to lead us somewhere, right? I always believe that we're always being guided by the universe, by our higher selves, by God, by whoever, whatever you believe in. Hey Queen, if you are learning from this episode, then you are going to love the Aligned and Magnetic Business Accelerator. This is the space where mindset, manifestation, and strategy come together to put the magic back into your business. Want to fill your DMs with clients ready to work with you? Want to make your dream job or business a reality this year? Ready to take Fridays off without worrying about your to-do list? You don't have to work hard or wait forever to get to where you want to be. It's all available to you right here, right now. Come and join us in the Aligned and Magnetic Business Accelerator, where we're making magic happen in our businesses. I'll not only show you how to do it, we will walk with you every step of the way as you implement what you learn. Go to coachlaurenashley.com/accelerator today to join. And remember, whatever you want, bippity boppity boo, it's yours. So, leaning into that instead of leaning into our fears. Because, okay, someone actually said this to me, fear, false evidence appearing real, I think is that what it is. That is what that acronym is. One of my colleagues, they reminded me of this, like fear is false evidence appearing real. And like when you're in a fear trip, right? Like you're so focused on like, well, what if this and what if that and what if this? Then your whole energy kind of spirals and then heads that direction. And then you create all of these circumstances or events or experiences that just reinforce that fear. Well, what if instead we can be like, okay, those fears have space. Like, that's okay. I'm human. Hello, fears over here. What if instead we leaned into like, okay, those can exist. And what if all of these reasons that actually I don't need to be afraid? What if I leaned into this experience and I went somewhere? What if I leaned into this experience and it was the best thing that I ever did? What if I leaned into this experience and I trusted in myself and this divine guidance, and I actually ended up creating a life that was better than I could have ever envisioned for myself, right? This is what happened to me, is that I just went off of a feeling. I didn't know that I would be here in front of you today delivering lives. Like, I was the girl that wanted to hide from cameras. I wanted to hide from people. I was so afraid of going live. I was afraid of talking to people. I was afraid of sales conversations. I was afraid of even promoting myself. And now I'm here after all the practice, after working through the fear, after trusting and believing that what I had to offer was worthy and was valuable. And after doing all the work, honestly, I want to offer you this reframe. So we've been talking a lot about obviously mindset and like, what if so-and-so thinks this, or what if like someone cancels me online? What if I say something that's wrong? I know a lot of my clients have gone through this. It's like, well, what if I give information and it's not accurate, right? Well, what if, first of all, we didn't like position ourselves as like needing to be right all the time? I think this is a really big flaw of the business industry, is that there's a ton of ego. And honestly, in business coaching, something that I see a lot is a lot of business coaches being like, you have to do this, and if you do that, then you're not going to be successful. And it's like, well, what if multiple truths existed, right? Like, what if business coaches were there to offer suggestions or offer pathways or offer, not even offer, but like reflect what it is that we're feeling, what it is that's coming up for us, and to hold the space for infinite possibility and for doing things your way? Like, what if there was no ultimate truth or one way to build a business? Because FYI, there's fucking not. But so many people are so hung up on this need to be right and this need to be, well, I'm a multi-million-dollar coach and therefore I have answers that you don't, and I have to pretend that I know your answers, right? And this is just not the way that I run my business. And I would encourage you to also think about like, how can you maybe incorporate a more open-minded, a more like relaxed way of approaching content and sharing information online, right? Because for me, in my business, I've tried this before where I'm like, I need to be an expert. I need to tell people how to do things and whatever. And as soon as I let that go, as soon as I just started to offer perspectives or offer suggestions or offer reflections, offer observations, offer the things that came up for me that felt in alignment for me to share, then it was so much easier than pressuring myself to be like the expert, to be the number one like thought leader in blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, why can't we just, or how can we, not why can't, but how can we just relax into knowing, trusting, and believing that what we have to share, what is on our hearts, what experiences we've been through are valuable to other people to hear too. Does this make sense? And the less we put pressure on ourselves, the less we try to force ourselves to show up in a particular way, the less we try to, create like super strict, stressful structure around what it is that we are here to do or how we need to do things, the easier thoughts can flow, the easier it is to create content, the easier it is to show up, because we're not being so forceful around like, oh my God, I have to present myself in this way. Like I have to be this person, right? So everyone has a unique makeup. And what I really just want you to take away from today is own that motherfucking shit. Like just step into who you are and don't be afraid to share that, right? Everyone is so different. So obviously, like I'm talking about human design. Human design was a really big thing for me that was helpful in being like, oh my God, my design is different than everybody else's, than who I'm comparing myself to. Of course I'm going to be different. Of course the way I do things is different. Of course the way I magnetize is different, right? So when you're talking about your work with people, the biggest thing that I like to encourage you to do is focus on like what you can do, what you feel confident in, not trying to like, I find with myself being a high achiever, and I think in general, society, like people just want to keep up with people. People want to be like successful. People want to be accepted, right? And so this can kind of come up when we're building our businesses and influence how you show up online. And the more you can come back to who you are, the more you come back to what you can do, the more you come back to what you are competent in, what you are good at, what your natural gifts really are, and build a business based on that, the easier it'll be to have confidence, the easier it'll be to show up, the easier it'll be to be an industry leader, right? And just leaning on all of that is key. And also taking the pressure off, guys. You don't have to have everything perfect. Literally, when I launch something that I'm like, I don't really know how this is going to unfold, I'm like 100% honest with people. Like, hey, here's this thing I would love for you to join. And if I'm being honest, I don't know how it will unfold, but here's my vision. And people can get behind that, right? You would be surprised. Like, you don't have to know all the time every single thing, every part of the details and everything. I think there's a lot of pressure, again, in the business industry that's like, you have to have all of these elements. And it's like, well, what if we just focus on building relationships, focusing on service, and conveying our ethos, right? Like our values, our vision, and our mission to our future clients, and seeing if they resonate, right? I think as long as you're in alignment with your values and your vision, then you're good to go. And as long as obviously you're showing up to serve your people, then you're good to go. This episode is derived from Client Attractor, a free 5-day live series that I ran pretty recently. You can access the full experience by signing up for Client Attractor. The link is in the show notes. So you can learn how to stand out online without feeling overwhelmed and attract more soulmate clients into your offers or programs with ease. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. If you like what you heard, I would love it if you left a review. If you like my vibe, come and hang with me in my Facebook or Telegram group. I'll drop the link to my email list below where you can get instant access. Make sure you check the show notes for any other links that I mentioned today. And until next time, I'm sending you waves of abundance.